This is the last in a series of videos about ourDars. In this one I have a look at some of the technical aspects of ourDars. I'm not going to get into a great deal of depth, but it should help to let you know where to find things associated with ourDars on the technical side. So one thing to be aware of is ourDars is a PWA, or progressive web application. This is great for installing on mobile devices. It makes it act more like a native application. It can be done by just selecting put on home page on mobile devices to install it as a PWA, and this video shows an example of installing ourDars as a PWA. It also shows the concurrency in ourDars. So the idea with ourDars is that multiple people can work on the same DAR at the same time and see changes in real time as people make changes to the DAR, so help teams work on decisions as a group. The other thing I'll show is the ourDars source code is all kept in GitHub. ourDars is free for use. Anyone can take the source code, modify however it wants. There's no restrictions on how the ourDars code is used. Also look at ourDars is using Firebase service components for the back end, so using the Firestore database, Firebase authentication provider, cloud Firebase functions, and also have a quick look at the Firestore rules to manage access to the database. The thing to note about the Google Firebase services is they're all managed services, or can be thought of as serverless architecture. So there's no need to know what actual machines or managed machines that this backend's running on. Also have a quick look at how ourDars can be run offline. By default I don't turn on the offline capability, but I'll have a quick demonstration of how to turn on the offline capability and what it looks like to the user when you're running ourDars to support offline work. And again, it makes it work a lot more like a native application where you can view your DARs even when you're not connected to the back-end servers. Okay, looking at using ourDars on a phone. So this is an Android phone. I'm opening the application in the browser, and then I'm going to do add to home screen. So that's a PWA function where it actually installs the web application on your phone. We can now look at on my home screen. We see ourDars is there. I can click on that, and that opens up just like a normal application now, and I can sign into it. This works the same way on an iPhone as well. You can from the browser add it to your home screen and then use it like a native application. This shows me signing into the Android version of ourDars, and to show some concurrency or some real-time activity, I'm also going to sign in at the same time on my desktop. So first we've signed in on the Android phone here, and now I'm opening up my desktop. I'm signing into the same DAR, and I'm going to make some changes on the desktop, and we should see the changes reflected on the Android phone at the same time. So first thing I'm doing, I'm going in, I'm changing the status to design, so I can change some information, and we see over on the phone that the status changed to design. Now I'm going to change some text and description, and this is an example of what can happen, how it can help you with collaborative work. So many people could be signed in looking at the DAR at the same time as changes are being made, and all will see the same changes happening in real time. So I'm making my change to the description, and we see over on the phone that the change is shown immediately there, and then we can put the description back and we should see the change in the phone as well. So that's been implemented using Firebase's concurrency. ourDars is managed, or the source is managed in a GitHub repository. So you see here under the SummerDA group of repositories is the ourDars instance, which has all the code for both both the Angular front end and all the Firebase back-end services. So if you do want to make changes to the code, then you go to clone or download the repositories. Usually you'll clone it down into a editor. It's set up for VSCode, so I recommend that as the best code editor for working on ourDars. Once in there, you can use the normal npm functions to load all the supporting libraries, and then use the Firebase command line interface to deploy to your own instance of Firebase. Some of the things in this GitHub repository, the actual ourDars manual, which is a Word document, is available in the repository as well. So if you want to make changes to ourDars, you can just open that, make changes to the manual to keep it in sync as well. Be aware that ourDars is built on the FBM starter application, which is my Angular starter application, and you can go over there to see the FBM starter application. So a lot of the authentication, some of the basic administration functions come out of the FBM starter application. Okay, let's have a look at the ourDars code and VSCode, and also how you can change ourDars to support offline work as well. So you see, this is ourDars from the GitHub repository. It's been cloned and brought down to VSCode. I've used the npm import to import all the modules, supporting modules associated with this, and libraries, and we're ready to go. So I've actually got it running here. So see here, I've done an ng start or ng serve to start up the browser, and it's running on localhost 4200, all fairly typical Angular things. So what I'm going to do here is change in the app module TS file. I'm going to change it from just being Angular Firestart module import. I'm going to remove that and register the variation on that Angular Firestore module, but include app persistence, or enable persistence for the data. I'll do a save all. Rebuilds the application. I'm going to open it in the browser. I'm going to log in. I'm going to sign in with, I'll sign in as project manager because there's a bunch of DARs there we can have a look at. Now if I go to my DARs, actually I'll look at the closed ones. We see there's a bunch there, and I can have a look at some of these. Now what I want to do is take this offline, so I'm going to bring up the developer console, and with this under application I can actually take this offline. You'll notice an offline indicator comes up on the ourDars interface to tell us that we're offline. But otherwise, if I go back to my DARs, still see the DARs being shown because it has the locally cached copy. I can look at the closed one, still shows me those, and I should still be able to open them up. So even though I'm offline, I can still review the data. I can actually still update the data as well. So it's useful for people who are very mobile, who may go in and out of cell phone contact, to have this offline capability. So they will not be able to update in real time online when they're not connected, but those changes will be stored and they'll have the DAR information available to them offline. Finally, have a quick look at the Firebase backend for ourDars Firebase is a Google set of services. It's actually built on the Google Cloud platform. Firebase is serverless or managed services, so you don't actually see the servers they are running on. You only get charged for usage of the services. So all the good things about cloud computing and serverless architecture is present in Firebase. The pieces that I use of Firebase, so you see here I've signed into the Firebase console, is authentication. Shows the various users, but this shows the sign-in providers that I'm using. So I've enabled email, password, Google sign-in, and Microsoft sign-in. But you see there's a bunch here that are available, so you can also have people sign in via things like Twitter, GitHub, IDs as well. I'm using the Firestore bases. This is basically a NoSQL database. So everything's stored as documents, as actually JSON type documents, and again, this user interface for Firebase allows you to cruise through the various documents that are in the database. If you do use ourDars, you'll be setting up your own instance of Cloud Firestore and the other Firebase services. So basically be creating your own project and setting those up. But again, that's fairly easy to do. All the deployment is available automatically and can be run from the VSCode client, just like you would as you continue to develop after that. But setting up your own empty instance of Firestore to use for your version of ourDars isn't a hard thing to do. Other services I use here is the Firestore functions, so functions that general functions that occur in the cloud. Some of the other things I use is performance monitoring is available. So you see here I've got performance information about initial load times for the application and all the normal things, segmentation you get with Google, performance of segmentation by location that it's occurring in over time, all those things. You can also set up analytics on your version of ourDars and use all the normal Google Cloud functions associated with that. One other thing to look at it in the database are the rules. So the rules are implemented, so people just can't come into your flat cloud Firestore database and use it. They need to be authenticated, and then even then there's roles and rights for access to the various data and the various documents in Cloud Firestore. There's indexes that have been set up, so beyond just the default indexes that you get with Cloud Firestore on individual fields in the document data stores, there's additional indexes. Again, those are managed from the client side because this is a serverless environment, and when you set up your own version of ourDars as part of the deployment, part of doing the cloud Firebase deployment, it'll deploy the indexes to the database as well. So I could talk a lot more about the technical side, but that's the basics of it. Someone who's got a good background in Angular and Firebase or Google services should be able to work on this if help's needed. I'm available to help. I don't think I'm going to be doing more than 1 week engagements on this. I'm really retired at the moment, but I think I could help out for a week and get most people up and running on their own instance of Firestore, and getting people who know something about Angular and Firebase being able to manage and support those instances of the client and the backend that they create.